what our day should look like. So if there's a particular story, if there's a particular peg, if there's a particular angle to a story that you'd like for us to look at, to bring you the right kind of voices, a balanced perspective, pro and cons, all of it, well, let us know in the comment section. We have a few stories that we're definitely going to be touching upon, some overnight developments that we need to take care of, apart from the newspaper advertisements. And again, the idea is not to judge a newspaper or take a look at who's doing better journalism or quality of it. It's just to bring everybody onto the same page, quite literally. There are some important stories that we're going to look at. There's the opposition meet in Bengaluru. It's important to note here that the Aam Aadmi Party, Varghese, has now said that it is going to be in attendance. This only after the Congress came out openly in support of its the Delhi ordinance issue, where the Kejriwal government is in tussle with the centre. Apart from that, you've got fresh violence in Manipur. Another a Naga woman was shot dead. Couple of killings that have taken place, faces defaced. It's not going all well in Manipur for sure. We'll also touch upon the fact that those NCP MLAs that broke away with Sharad Pawar, even as Sharad Pawar became the deputy chief minister, those rebel MLAs have now met with Sharad Pawar. There is a growing voice, a growing chorus that they do not want to see this split within the NCP. What's going to happen next in Maharashtra pot boiler right ahead of 2024 elections is something that we'll have to focus and take a look at. Eighth Cheetah has died at the Kuno National Park. Let's not forget, it was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's birthday when he reintroduced those cheetahs from Namibia. Then some other were called in from South Africa. Now, out of the international arrivals, 8 have died. What's the government's response? We'll bring you that. Apart from that, every day till the 23rd of August, hopefully, fingers crossed, if the Chandrayaan makes its soft landing on the moon, making India only the 4th country to ever do so, we're going to bring you a small update every day of where that satellite is right now. Where is the module headed? What's the position like? Are we on course or not? Apart from that, taking a look at global politics, there's a war that's going on, if you've forgotten, Ukraine, Russia, and Vladimir Putin has now said that he's got enough of cluster munitions ready to be mobilized. What's going to happen next? Varghese, our expert man on that, will bring you all the latest details. Yes, Varghese, you are an expert. Also, yesterday, I saw some of the best tennis in a long time, right in the center court. Novak Djokovic, I mean, had he won the Wimbledon, it'd be his 24th Grand Slam, it'd be his 5th consecutive Wimbledon title, and a record equaling 8th Wimbledon title. But that wasn't supposed to happen because a young boy, Carlos Alcaraz, beat him, at his own game, and it's the end of an era, or maybe starting of a new one, considering Alcaraz
who you were supporting.
Precisely. So much to cover. Let's quickly get started, quickly get rolling. First and foremost, the opposition meet. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's important to note, let's lay, the semantics out on the table. Patna was the first meeting. That funny press conference took place after that. In the meantime, Aam Aadmi Party said they're not going to be supporting this joint opposition game, that whatever it is that you're trying to do here. The NDA, of course, calling out this particular move. They're saying a bunch of jokers, all of that, all that political brinkmanship is on. But today in Bengaluru, the joint opposition parties are going to meet, and Arvind Kejriwal is in attendance. So, Varghese, how are you looking at it? What are various headlines telling you? The one here on the front page of the Times of India says, "Apt to attend Bengaluru meet as Congress says it will oppose ordinance in Parliament." This even as OP Rajbhar and Pawan Kalyan are now in the NDA tent. The JDS and TDP may walk into in this NDA tent. What's going to happen? How do you see both these sides, and whilst we're showing you fresh visuals of where that joint opposition meet is going to take place, it is a big opposition meet, and Sonia Gandhi's pictures, doing the round over there. Mallikarjun Kharge saying, "United we stand," but Sonia Gandhi's picture, see, right behind Mallikarjun Kharge is Sonia Gandhi. Is Sonia Gandhi finally the glue that, this joint opposition needs right now? Here on the first page of the Indian Express, it says, seat sharing plan is going to be on the opposition conclave agenda, and Aam Aadmi Party at the table today. Deliberations to be held on formal name, a common program for anti-BJP front.
So it looks like the only common ground that all of them have, almost 25 to 28 parties that are coming in. We are looking at the common ground being the BJP in the picture, the larger party in the picture. So it looks like the effort is also to show that they are united. It's taking place in Bengaluru for a reason, because the Congress has just won Karnataka, and they want to showcase it as the place where things could stand together. Opposition parties meet united, we stand still. That message being pushed out saying that it's the unity factor that is most important. And when you ask that question, Kabir, about whether Sonia Gandhi is the actual clue, the glue that can keep this entire opposition group, varied groups of people together with different interests. And as we speak, we see that how Rajbhar has gone back into NDA camp, and Pawan Kalyan has given tacit support for the NDA as well. But that is quite interesting, because Pawan Kalyan and the YSRCP are totally at loggerheads with each other in their home states. But here, let us look at how the RS vote will happen. Just before we can talk about the opposition meet over here, Kabir. The biggest story over here is actually that Congress, just ahead of this meet, has decided that they will back up on the ordinance.
They said they're not totally against it. A lot of people also saying that Aam Aadmi Party was a little naive to be bringing up such a demand, at a national political level, when something is happening between the center and the Aam Aadmi Party.
And the Aam Aadmi Party, the issue is also the Aam Aadmi Party's politics, especially in Punjab, is against the Congress. So there are state leaders who are also opposed within the Congress regarding this, and many of the state units are not happy about it. But of course, there is some practicality when it comes to all the opposition leaders coming to it. And also the question about the Delhi ordinance. Now, the issue is how this ordinance can get stuck in the Rajya Sabha. That is where we are looking at how things could be at play. The BJP has got 92, AIDMK at 4, other NDA allies 9, BJD and YSRCP, we are expecting them to vote in favor of the ordinance. While over here we can see that the Congress 31, TMC 12, DMK 10, AAP 10, BR is 7. Now expected to vote against it is around 39. So 5 nominated MPs so far have maintained a neutral stance.
This is how the Rajya Sabha vote is going to play out.
Going to play out. And
Kiska padla bhari hai? Who's got more votes with them?
Well, as of now, of course, the massive, you have the 92 votes coming in from, the BJP itself, who is having the lion's share because they are the ruling party in place. Then it's got its small allies like AIDMK is also, going ahead with it. Then the entire collective NDA allies also comes to 9. So here what we are going to see is a symbolic kind of a protest that could actually happen. That is what we are looking at. And you have these nominated MPs who've been neutral as of now. So that will be interesting to see how they would also play. This is happening less than a month after the Patna meet. So again, the agendas that would be lined up. Now, also this meet has another significance. This is the first meet that's happening after the NCP has not officially, but kind of split. So it is happening after the NCP has been in, which is said to be one of the major components of this opposition ally meet. We're talking about the NCP being in split, and that also coming into focus.
I'm reading here on the Express, the Indian Express copy. It says sources said the meeting in the Bengaluru meeting would take forward the deliberations in Patna on June 23rd. We have to strengthen the bonds between the parties, narrow down the differences, and improve inter-party communication. This coming from a senior opposition leader. Now on Monday, the leaders of the parties will sit down for informal discussions in the evening and then attend a dinner hosted by Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. Now the broad agenda of the talks on Tuesday will be set at Monday's informal meeting. Of course, this is the quotation, of course, we need to talk about seat sharing, said one leader. Another leader said that the parties would take forward the discussions on holding a joint program, such as rallies and identifying common issues of concern. Issues on which the parties can coordinate and unite, drawing up a program, if not written. As one of the leaders said, we need to identify areas of cooperation. The mission is clear: work unselfishly, unitedly, and present the India we cherish with a vision for 2024 and beyond, said TMC Rajya Sabha MP Derek O'Brien. Derek O'Brien never really shies away from a comment.
Making a comment like that. The Bengaluru meeting is likely to discuss the common programs that can be achieved what the parties need to do in the near future, assess the current political situation, and make a strategy for the upcoming parliament session. So the monsoon session is going to come up, and I think that is going to be quite a stormy affair when we look at the monsoon session. So I think even for that, they are going to have to strategize on that front. But interestingly enough, is the presence of Sonia Gandhi in this meet. NCP after the split, we have
yesterday Rahul Gandhi had released a video. I'm not too sure if we have those visuals with us or not. But Rahul Gandhi on his YouTube has been doing all sorts of vlogging, taking the modern technology to its advantage, and he's showcased this time around. He's gone out with farmers, sat down with them, worked with them in the fields, and met the ladies, asked the ladies whether they want to come to Delhi, and the lady said, why don't you take us to Delhi? He calls up Priyanka on the video. Priyanka Gandhi says, okay, how about you call them? The next video, like the snippet cuts to that particular bus where they're all singing and going to Delhi. They sit down, have lunch with the Gandhis, and then there's this beautiful shot of Sonia Gandhi, dancing with those girls. Sonia Gandhi, her, importance is very crucial here. Now, the Express Network says, the big question is whether the parties will give the grouping a formal name and a structure by appointing a chairperson or convener.
That is what exactly that even I'm also looking
Do you
at.
see Sonia Gandhi fitting in this role? I mean, she's stepped away from the AICC role as well. Of course, you can't really...
I mean, what you're saying is correct. I mean, we can look about whether, but the question is whether she will take up a position. And probably we are looking at a convener position, whether this grouping is going to be in the form of an alliance, an extended UPA. I mean, you can call it whatever you want it. But will this actually have some kind of a formal structuring is the question. This is a pertinent question being asked because now this is the second meet. So what is the purpose of these meetings happening? Will this also in fact be a backroom talk and then only a front room idea of unity, and then only a backroom talk is something that we have to figure out?
Well, what's going to happen today? Reactions are going to be coming in sooner than later, and of course today is going to be an informal setup, but the points of tomorrow's meeting, it seems, are going to be set up on today's informal meet, and then there's a dinner with the Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. We'll have to look at how that plays out and what's really put on the cards in terms of agenda for this opposition conclave. All right, Varghese, let's shift our focus real quickly. In Manipur, because ladies and gentlemen, we talk about Manipur every day. We have to, we must. It's more than just boiling, and we're way beyond saying that peace must prevail. Let's hope that good sense prevails. Some sort of action, some sort of end conclusion, some cathartic way of ending this. Is there a cathartic way of ending this? First and foremost, Varghese, what's the latest details? We're hearing there's some more killings that have taken place. There's a fresh round of violence. A woman was killed, shot, her face defaced. I mean, you name it, and those kinds of gruesome acts are taking place in Manipur. Well, it says that 57-year-old Naga woman shot dead in Imphal. 5 women among 9 held. Police have recovered one .303 rifle, 3 rounds, and one 9mm pistol.
No, the issue here is that we should understand that Manipur has got 3 major ethnic groups. That is the Meiteis, the Kukis and the Nagas. And this ethnic conflict that has been there in Manipur was primarily between the Meiteis as well as the Kukis as of now. And right now there have been efforts to actually only make sure that they are being brought to the table to negotiate. But the recent killing of the Naga woman is disturbing because it adds another dimension to a community that is not even involved in this at all. They have not been engaged in this as well. I mean, the ethnic conflict.
They are part and parcel of the tribal group.
They are part of the
solidarity marches. But you'd see, Nagas also.
They have been there, but you don't see the kind of violence that has been there between the Nagas and the rest of them. It has been primarily the violence has been, or the ethnic clashes have been between the Kukis and the Meiteis. So the Nagas have been also been worried about the kind of violence that is going and has been spiraling out of control for quite some time now. So the bigger issue right now is that it shouldn't also spill over to the rest of the scene. our worry has always been this, that when we talk about Manipur, the chances of this conflict spilling over to Mizoram, or spilling over to Nagaland, or spilling over to the rest of the, northeastern states, that has been the biggest concern. And right now, this is not a welcome sign of the kind of violence that has been happening. The woman, I think 9 people have already been arrested, if my latest information coming on the online forums are to be believed. 9 people are said to have already been arrested on this, and they are all, in fact, looking at what are the possibilities by
There are 2 victims, it seems, Varghese. Victims include a 55-year-old, 50-plus-year-old Naga woman who suffered from a mental illness. I'm reading it out of a Hindu copy. And a 34-year-old man from the Kuki village of Laimaton in Thangbu. A Naga organization calls for a 12-hour shutdown and calls for exemplary punishment for the culprits behind the killing of the woman, because the face has been defaced, and there are several other information out there. There are pictures that have been put out where these are combo pictures that show arms manufactured with proper arms manufactured with uprooted electric poles and GI pipes that were recovered by the army during the ethnic clashes in the tenuous state of Manipur right now. It's a fresh round of violence, and apart from all of this, first and foremost, these visuals, these pictures, I'm going to urge the audience to, for better understanding what's really happening, go to the Hindu, copy, take a look at it once. The pictures that they put out, I'm sure the pictures are doing rounds on the internet as well. These are pictures, Varghese, of guns that have been manufactured using uprooted electric poles, welded. These are sophisticated country weapons, if I could put it that way. And not just this, there are now, these tribal, the tribal groups are sticking to their demands. It's not just a separate administration anymore. There's a chorus that's now growing for a separate state altogether.
Yeah, that is also there, and then also there's the worrying factor where Jaishankar has spoken with Myanmar, and the Tribune has carried that story as well, where he says, just take the Tribune's paper. This is what it goes like. Ultra sneaking into Manipur, Jaishankar cautions Myanmar. EM wants drug human trafficking issues tackled too. It says the border unrest has taken up. These are reports of heavily armed militants entering Stone Manipur. Disturbed conditions in Myanmar have been allowing militants to sneak into India. Due to this, 1,400 kilometers of India-Myanmar-Thailand highway is 4 years behind deadline. So that is another big project that has been delayed because of the disturbances in northern Myanmar. This Jaishankar also underlined the importance of ensuring peace and stability at the border areas, and said that these have seriously disturbed recently, and any actions that aggravate the situation should be avoided. So clearly the foreign minister making it quite clear to his Myanmarese counterpart about the situation that is there in northern Myanmar, and how it is creating trouble in Manipur as well.
But do you think this new stand, this new solidified stand of we're not going to budge from our demands of a separate administration, going to an extent that there's now saying that they want a separate state altogether, this will certainly have larger implications, but have the groups been able to, or will they now be able to finally make the center turn their heads towards the tenuous state of Manipur the way they want it, and not the way the central government actually wants it?
Well, the issue of Manipur cannot be resolved unless we see the geopolitical issues around it. We look at the ethnic issues around it. So right now the issue would be to just ensure that the ethnic issues in Manipur are addressed first. That is the first thing that we have to in fact bring through. After that, we have to also look at what's happening across. See, Manipur cannot be seen from isolation from what's happening in Myanmar. That we should understand first. What is happening in Myanmar, especially the kind of instability that is there in northern Myanmar, and with the military junta carrying on with operations there, and those ultras sneaking, going to and forth between our borders, this is something that is creating unrest for us at the same time. So there's a geopolitical agenda also happening on the ground. So of course, when Jaishankar speaks, he's speaking on that as well, saying that India is also quite concerned with the nature of developments that's happening across the border. So it's not. It's going to be quite difficult, because all these issues have to be taken care of together.
How does that come about? I mean, you've got these various factors at play. what's the first one that you go and look at?
Well, the
It
first
has
one is
have
to
a chain
restore law
effect.
and order. First one is to restore law and order. Second one is to seal the border. Right now, it's a very porous border. We have no other options but actually to go
The
ahead and seal.
topography, the geography,
Exactly.
how do you seal that border?
Of course, we have been doing that with Bangladesh. It's been a very porous border, but we've been fencing certain parts of the border. We have been manning it. So you have only one option, but to seal the border until we bring peace into Manipur. There's no other option that has been left. So once we bring peace into Manipur, then we would be able to speak about how whether these tribals and non-tribals can sit and speak about what can be done further. And the aggravating irritants, as we call, between the communities need to be removed. The cookies, of course, will be demanding from separate administration, with some in among them asking for a separate statehood. Well, that is also going to be a very contentious issue because
Certainly,
because
it's
Manipur
problematic for the union of this, for the union of India.
integrity for the integrity of Manipur as well. Many of them have been saying the integrity of Manipur shouldn't be stopped because Manipur is a multi-ethnic society, and that character of that multi-ethnic society in Manipur comes from the Kukis being there or the Nagas being there. See, the Nagas could have easily said that these areas could have been merged with Nagaland. It did not happen that way. So the Nagas in Manipur have a different, I won't say completely different history and culture.
I mean,
but they have their own.
Believe that if the Cookies do get the separate administration, you've got the Tipra Motha party in Tripura that's been demanding the same for the longest time. They're going to be like, hey boss, now what about us?
The separate, see, the thing is, there are provisions and there are separate administration councils that are there within Manipur, and therefore these provisions can be used to a large extent to ensure that this is in place. But let us in fact see how it works out, because otherwise it's going to be a very tough situation right now for anyone, because it's got, as I said, it's a blend of ethnic clashes, it's a blend of geopolitical issues, it's a blend of narcotics to an extent, it's a blend of militant issues as well. So you have to, it's like a lot of knots, and you have to remove one knot after the other. And you need to break the biggest knot, of course, being the ethnic conflict in that state, which needs to be addressed with law, trying to bring law and order to that state as fast as possible.
Well, I remember reading on an international website, I think it was The Guardian, back in May, voices from the tribal groups in Manipur, trying to understand how the West is viewing our problem back at home. And separate administration seems to be the only answer. These kind of headlines were thrown about in the West. Now, 70 days later, there's still no solution, at least to the violence. The Kuki groups have hardened their position and are now seeking a separate state. This demand, Verghese, is problematic. It is in contrast to the previous demand of a separate administration within the same state of Manipur. Now, it is a separate state within the Union of India. Tribal leaders have pointed out that the central government has not been making any effort to discuss these particular points with them. Now, again, you can either push something under the rug, but it will come out and explode sometime or the.
See, this is the we have to address all these concerns. What the tribals have to say, what the non-tribals have to say. It's going to be a long and it's going to be a very difficult road ahead. And as of now, the only primary issue is to ensure that the weapons are out and there's some kind of peace that is restored as fast as possible. And only after that will we be able to do something on this, because it is about the peace factor that we have to look into. Because without peace, nothing can be achieved, and therefore the law and order situation on the ground is something that especially the killing of the Naga woman has only raised the stake, but there have been 3 trucks also that was recently burned. So all this is only going to create more trouble as of now as we speak. And then you have the coupled with the issues about ultra sneaking in from the neighboring country as well.
Well, I mean, I'm losing fingers to keep account of the socio-economic fault lines in Manipur. Of course, the situation is more than tense right now. The integrity of the entire state is, under question right now. 70 days on, no solution. What's going to happen next? We'll still have to wait in from a word from, the state government or the central government in terms of the latest killings that have taken place and what kind of exemplary punishment do these culprits get. We're learning some 9 people have been apprehended in this fresh round of violence. Our focus remains on Manipur at 12 p.m. again today, bringing you the voices from both the sides and some political analysts and some military experts as well to talk specifically on what's happening in Manipur, where is that particular road headed. Shifting our focus here, sticking to politics, however, and very quickly and shortly, it's important ahead of 2024. The rebels have met Sharad Pawar. These are NCP rebels that broke away, met with Ajit Pawar, went with Ajit Pawar. Ajit Pawar became the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Several inductees, new ministers, berths being that were allocated, and it was all going hunky-dory. But certainly, rumblings in the Maharashtra political scene were far from over. Sharad Pawar, his own show of strength. Ajit Pawar, his own show of strength. A legacy, lineages, what's going to happen next, ego and prestige issues. Now, these rebels are saying, keep party united. Rebel NCP leaders, led by Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar on Sunday, called on founder Sharad Pawar and urged him to take steps to keep the party united. According to a close associate, Pawar was taken aback when his nephew, along with all the other 8 NCP ministers and Praful Patel, walked in for an unscheduled meeting at the YB Shavan Center. Patel, who spearheaded the idea of paying the surprise visit, said it was an unscheduled courtesy call, adding that the latter listened to us patiently but did not react. The enigma of Sharad Pawar, confidant of none, a friend of all, confidant of none, enemy of nobody. You know how they say in that really beautiful ad, I'm forgetting the brand, they said, champions have a lot of opponents but no enemies. How does that play out? How are you looking at the situation here? Ajit Pawar and Patel in that set of ministers and leaders that went to meet Sharad Pawar. And Sharad Pawar welcomed, listened, but did not react.
Well, a person who is quite quiet needs to be taken more seriously. So if he's not reacted to it, I think he has replied to them in their silence, and therefore that silence is something that I think we have to also keep track of, because that silence is going to in fact just show how things are going to work out on the larger scale. Why I would say that, Ajit Pawar is known to be close to his aunt Pratibha, so there's some family connection that is also probably being used in this. Ajit Pawar visited Silver Oak, the residence of NCP founder, to meet the latter's wife Pratibha Pawar after she underwent surgery at a hospital in Mumbai. All right, so there is a familial ties still remain there. But interestingly enough, for the question that you said, because even the Hindustan Times has raised that issue about Ajit Pawar meeting with Sharad Pawar, and the rebels meeting with them. He gave them a patient hearing but did not react to anything of it.
He says, the Times of India says that, the rebels apologized. And let's not forget, Ajit Pawar and Praful Patel, part of that group of, NCP leaders who went to meet Sharad Pawar. They say rebels apologized, but party founder did not respond to their plea. What does this signify essentially? You think the rebels are now going back to Sharad Pawar, or they want Sharad Pawar to
Or they're worried that this might not last long. There could be a factor that they don't know what is up Sharad Pawar's sleeve. So they
today
are
it was
worried.
NCP and Shiv Sena
and
UBT. Tomorrow it could be you.
Yeah, so today the thing is they are worried that Sharad Pawar might actually pull the rug from under their feet, and of course he's going to be in the opposition meet today, and
it has happened before. By the way.
So he could pull out a surprise, a surprise Heart of Queens immediately, and you would be completely completely disarmed, and you wouldn't know what to do next. So right now they have invested a lot. They have, if you look at the rebels, they have invested a lot in the sense that they have backed Ajit. They have taken a huge risk by bringing the party on the verge of a split. All right, on the verge of a split. They have technically done a coup d'etat by trying to go against the senior Sharad Pawar, and Sharad Pawar is now traveling across Maharashtra and will be continuing to do so.
He's rallying. Uddhav Thackeray is rallying.
Yeah, so with both of them coming with an image saying that, there were traitors in our midst. There were traitors in our midst. So how this entire issue is going to play out for 2024 also could be worrisome for this faction, because that would be the litmus test as to whether Ajit Pawar's coup d'etat has actually worked in the NCP or not. So that could be also a worrying factor on the ground.
Well, a fortnight after raising a banner of revolt, rebel NCP leaders led by Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar on Sunday called on the party's founder Sharad Pawar for what appeared to be a reproachment, urging him to take steps to keep NCP united. According to a close associate, Pawar was taken aback when Ajit Pawar, along with all the other 8 MLAs and ministers and Praful Patel, walked in for an unscheduled meeting. NCP Rajya Sabha member Praful Patel, who spearheaded the idea of paying a surprise visit to Pawar, said it was an unscheduled courtesy call. Sharad Pawar is our God, beacon and mentor. We came here to seek his blessings to work and keep the party united. He listened to us patiently but did not react. Patel said that the group had no appointment. When they learnt that the senior was at his YB Chavan Center office, they decided to take a chance. Along with Ajit Pawar and Praful Patel, NCB cabinet members Dilip Walse Patil, Shagan Bhujbal, Dhananjay Munde, Hassan Mushrif, Aditi Tatkare and Deputy Speaker Narhari Zirwal were present. The Deputy Speaker was also present over there. What's going to happen? I mean, this is much more than any other soap opera you'd find on television.
But also one more small thing,
just to trust you me.
One more small thing.
Really interesting politics playing out here.
Yeah, one more interesting thing, one small thing before we in fact read. Ajit Pawar was allotted key finance portfolio while his camp managed to bag cooperative and agricultural ministries which were represented by BJP and Shiv Sena headed by Chief Ministers Eknath Shinde earlier.
So is this a case of him taking, those kind of portfolios and now going back to Sharad, Pawar Senior?
I don't know. That's
I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I don't know, but it looks really is good. I think we have to keenly watch what's happening in the NCP and keenly watch to find out whether Sharad Pawar has something up his sleeve.
All right. Next up, let's also take a look at what's happening with the cheetahs at the Kuno National Park, Varghese. 8th death. How are you looking at Project Cheetah?
See,
how strong do you think it is? I mean, first and foremost, you have to give credit where it's due. For an animal that is extinct, you can debate about why the animal got extinct. Do we have the right kind of habitat for this animal, the cheetah? But the idea, the organic purity of the idea of, hey man, let's introduce cheetahs back into our country. That's a good step, right?
See, it's a good step, but as I said, there are 2 different species of cheetahs. One, you have the Asiatic cheetah and then you have the African cheetah, and we have gotten the African cheetah. The Asiatic being the last ones being in Iran, and probably that is also near critical endangerment as we speak right now. So, right now, I think the biggest issue when it comes to the cheetahs is that they are in a totally different environment. According to our human capacity, we have been able to assess that environment. We think there are enough game for them. They can survive. I think there should be a more, what I would call as a proper investigation into why these deaths are occurring. There have been issues about, these cheetahs getting into fights with larger cats. So all those issues are also there. So right now, I think the project is going to be closely monitored, and it is also going to be looked at. The thing is that we should have had this population start growing, but unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be
What is the government's response, essentially? Earlier, we saw that there was a territorial fight that, cheetah from Namibia named Tejas, there were injury marks on his neck, on its, back. There were proper indications that there was a proper territorial fight per se.
Also, there is a very interesting this thing that you were talking about. So we were talking about Tejas as well, but here there is a Jacob Koshy's report in the Hindu. What it says is this: this will involve recalling even the animals released into the wild and investigating if the radio collars dangling from their necks are indirectly abetting infections. That is what multiple sources have told.
So the radio collars are now going to be taken off.
We don't know. They want to, in fact, take a look at that.
This is what the government says. The government says, don't write off the Cheetah project. We're hopeful of its success. This amid deaths of 8 cheetahs, including 3 cubs that were born on Indian soil in the Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh in the past 4 months alone. This coming from the Environment Ministry on Sunday, which said Project Cheetah is yet to complete a year and it will be premature to conclude the outcome in terms of success and failure, since the cheetah introduction is a long-term project. It also said it is optimistic that the project will succeed in the long run, and there is no reason to speculate at this juncture.
Well, that was the government view, but I'm just highlighting a little more on that radio caller. The Hindu has been actually taking complete, their entire story is based on that. The trigger for recall for the latest fatality, a cheetah named Surya died from a wound on its neck that was then infected with maggots. The larvae of maggots were also found on the radio collar of fatally infected the animal, says Rajesh Gopal, who chairs the Apex Steering Committee monitoring the Cheetah project. Whether the wound was due to abrasion from the collars abetting a parasitic infection is a matter of dispute, which officials saying that India's long history of radio collaring tigers, leopards and now cheetahs has never shown such infections. So there are two sides.
So now
to that
all have been
story.
called back. All the the radio collars are going to be taken off, right?
This what they say is there is a speculation going on right now. There seem to be two groups in that committee who think the radio collars should be taken off and radio collars shouldn't be taken off. I think they're still trying to find out whether this could be the root cause of it, and the medical review will investigate if the radio collars on the cheetahs are indirectly abetting those infections.
But the government says this is all very speculative. These reports that you're attributing to cheetah deaths and radio collars, this is very speculative. The government is also saying don't speculate on the success of Project Cheetah. It's still too soon. It's been less than a year. It's a difficult project. We know it's an uphill battle, but it's too soon to speculate. Do you think what the government's response is the most apt one at the moment?
Well, that's what I think. The government is being very optimistic, and it is trying to look into all the possibilities that could have led to the death of the cheetahs, and they are trying to. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult. A reintroduction program is not easy. It's going to be very difficult. There have been several reintroduction programs that have failed in the past as well because the environment or the sickness on the area, all that could have been one of those reasons. But this particular story that we in fact take, it's been a huge ambitious plan, and I think we have to give it time for it to see what is exactly the cause for the deaths of these cheetahs and whether we can in fact remedy it as fast as possible, because as I said, the idea is that we should see a growing population soon.
Alright, so after Kuno deaths, radio collars are said to be taken off these 10 cheetahs. This coming from wildlife authorities that are expected to carry out the exercise after it was noted that the male coalition of the cheetah brothers from Namibia, Gaurav and Shaurya, also referred to as the rock stars, have started showing a similar problem.
Okay.
So we'll have to figure out
wait and watch
what really happens at Kuno. Of course, the government says it's all speculative right now, and it's going to be premature to conclude whether the project is a success or not. Very quickly moving on, ladies and gentlemen, like promised, bringing you the Chandrayaan update. We have I call him the wannabe scientist amongst us. He's got details on, what kind of rock formations we have on the moon and craters. Well, I'm exaggerating. But Varghese, what's the latest on,
Well, it's very simple. It's on track.
Where are we headed? It's on track?
It's on track. Of course,
like,
now...
you're talking about how you nurse a baby, how, a couple gets pregnant with a baby. And now every day, we're going to give you a little update of where this baby is headed. What's the situation of the baby right now?
It was put onto orbit, and now they are trying to, stabilize that orbit. And as we said, it will go around Earth-centric orbit. And as we, the idea is that you use the Earth's gravity in a manner and then use it like a slingshot. So you keep on using it. For example, if this is the Earth, they'll use the gravity of this Earth, and you'll have it going like this. So after some time, it will be like thrown. So
when you have the right trajectory, it's going to shoot.
Sure, yeah, they're going to fire the engines, and it will go headed straight.
The lunar centric orbit.
It'll be hurtled towards the moon, and using the existing rocket engines that would help it escape from the Earth's gravity, and it would be hurtled towards the moon. And once it gets captured by the moon's gravity naturally, of course, we will be looking at that big event which we call as the landing of the rover. And I think till now we are perfect as if it's going right now with the trajectory and other things. They are closely monitoring the health of the probe as well. So I think we have to just, it's an impatient wait till August 28th. That's it. For me, it's a very impatient wait because last time I was closely following as to find out whether they'll be able to, whether they'll be able to in fact go ahead and, put that rover on the moon. It would have been a fantastic first attempt, but then things didn't work.
Okay, so this is just giving you some details on the internet. Varghese might appreciate, and all the science aficionados and, space heads would certainly appreciate. Chandrayaan 3 is now in an orbit. This is the Earth-centric orbit that Varghese is talking about. When it is the closest to the Earth, it is as close as 173 kilometers, and the farthest point in that orbit is 41,762 kilometers, according to the Indian Space Agency, ISRO. Now, Chandrayaan 3 mission update. The spacecraft's health is normal. The first orbit raising maneuver, which is earthbound firing number 1, was successfully performed. This is the latest that we're talking about. I'm still appalled. I'm still taken back with these visuals. You know, the liftoff that we saw earlier. It just, you know, blows my mind away. How India is doing this with the budget that we have and the quality that we're producing, and only the 4th country to finally soft land on the moon.
Yeah, it is only the 4th country to soft land on the moon, and well, let's see how it is going to work. I mean, I keep my fingers crossed, and I keep telling you I keep my fingers crossed, because I just hope they are able to get.
But you know what they say in science, right? You know, science is like, I mean, 2 plus 2 has to be 4. It can't be 4.2 or 4.1. Of course, not all of it is in our hands in this particular situation. But, you know, the ISRO and the members and the ministers after that particular speech were all hopeful that this time around, we're better equipped, we're modified, and it is certainly going to be a success. Shifting our focus to some international news, there's too much happening, but of course, we'll touch upon this one little aspect. Reading here from the copy of the Indian Express, it says, after Ukraine gets a US-backed supply of banned bombs, Moscow has sufficient stockpile of cluster munitions for retaliation. This coming in from Vladimir Putin. Now, reserved right for reciprocal action, says the Russian president. This was Putin's first remark since the US announced giving cluster munitions to Ukraine. There's also another picture of the last ship that has left Ukraine seaport ahead of the Black Sea grain deal deadline. But just reading a small excerpt so that you understand what and where this particular war is headed and stands at. Vladimir Putin said in an interview published on Sunday that Russia has a sufficient stockpile of cluster munitions, and warned that Russia reserves the right to take reciprocal action if Ukraine uses the controversial weapons. Now, in his comments on the delivery of cluster munitions to Ukraine from the United States, Vladimir Putin said that Russia has not used cluster bombs in its war in Ukraine so far. The use of cluster bombs by both Russia and Ukraine has been widely documented, including by the Associated Press and the international humanitarian organizations, and cluster rounds have been found in the aftermath of Russian strikes. Until now, this is a quotation, until now, we have not done this, we have not used it, and we have not had such a need, is what Vladimir Putin said. Rossiya TV reporter Pavel Zarubin published excerpts of the interview to his Telegram channel Sunday, ahead of a scheduled broadcast night. The Pentagon has said that said on Thursday that cluster munitions provided by the United States had arrived. They were confirming essentially that the cluster munitions are with Ukraine. So Moscow says they haven't used these cluster munitions. Ukraine now has the cluster munitions, but there are excerpts and documentations, well, allegedly, where these cluster munitions have been used by the Russian forces. It has been found in the aftermath of the Russian destruction.
So Kabir, you know, what are these cluster ammunitions? The cluster bombs, what happens is when we use it in a field, it is a small, it is a series of bombs that tend to be, you know, spraying a lot of these bomblets, and these bomblets tend to fall into a larger area, and it tries to neutralize that area. Basically, it is a lot of bombs being thrown at the same time, small ones, but
larger area is covered
in a single shot. But the danger happens is that most of the times, a lot of these bombs don't explode, and they tend to be lying there. We don't know whether they are live, or, you know, they tend to get live at certain points, and there have been a lot of disasters that happen because of this, and that's why cluster bombs were considered to be a humanitarian risk. And now with the US arming the Ukrainians with the cluster bombs, the Russians of course will have to use their stockpiles as well when it comes to it. And another issue that would come up, of course, would be the humanitarian nature of this, because these bomblets, as I said, could remain in the ground without exploding for quite some time, and some of the innocent victim might be a part of it. We did have Cambodia, in fact, warning the US about it, saying that when you gave it to Ukraine, do you remember what you did in Vietnam? So that is something that is quite extraordinary enough to actually see from history, and I think this war, especially that is being going on, it is just being pitched up. You're talking about tactical nuclear weapons, you're talking about cluster bombs, you're talking about internal rebellions within the Russian ranks. Then you're talking about how the Ukrainians are slowly, ceding land. Then they're trying to go for a counter-offensive. This war has gone on many ways in such trajectories that only has complicated further. And cluster bombs are only going to complicate it further.
Well, we'll have to wait and watch what happens, even as the world has been waiting for the better part of almost 2 years of where is this Ukraine-Russian conflict headed. It is already, scripting history each passing day, even as the last ship has left the Ukraine seaport ahead of the Black Sea grain deal deadline. This is the last ship to travel under a UN brokered deal that allows the safe Black Sea export of Ukrainian grain left. That particular ship left the port of Odessa early on Sunday ahead of the deadline to extend the agreement. Russia has not agreed to register any new ships. Well, we know Russia wouldn't really want to register any new ships over there as well. So, cluster munitions, do they have it? Do they not have it? Have they used it? Have they not used it? So many questions that are now doing the rounds. And finally, we're at a paucity of time, but there's one little thing that we must, try attempting, Varghese, which is, of course, on the top page, on the front page. It is Alcaraz, Carlos Alcaraz. I'll show you a little picture of what it means for this 20-year-old boy. It's called Coronation on Center Court. Carlos Alcaraz ends Novak Djokovic's long winning streak at the center court with a dramatic 5-set victory in one of the greatest Wimbledon finals ever contested. Take a look at this picture. I don't know how iconic this will be, or the one one with the Alcaraz kissing the cup. But right on the top corner here, take a look at this one. Take a look at this one right here. This right here is a poster of Carlos Alcaraz referencing the Tamil movie Master, which was tweeted by the Wimbledon officials on Sunday. So take a look at that. That's Alcaraz showing the shush finger, right in the middle of a huge crowd. And that's exactly what it was. Take a look at this picture and what it means to this youngster. He fell down. The first set, he was off, Varghese. 6-1, he was off, he was trailing. The second one was right down to the wire, 6-6, then a tiebreaker, 7-6, and then later on he won a consecutive third set. Djokovic came back with his own 6-1 set, and then the final set was played out. It was nearly a 5-hour long match, and there are several reactions over here. Sachin Tendulkar says, what a fantastic way and a final to watch. Excellent tennis by both these athletes. We're witnessing the rise of the next superstar of tennis. I'll be following Carlos's career for the next 10-12 years, just like I did with Roger Federer. Many congratulations, Carlos Alcaraz. Then you have Rafael Nadal, which many say, is the mentor for Carlos Alcaraz, both being Spanish. The Spanish king was there. Of course, the future king of England was there with his own son, Brad Pitt, some other celebrities, you name it, they were all there. Congratulations, Carlos. You have given us immense joy today, and I am sure that our pioneer in Spanish tennis, Manolo Santana, has also been cheering wherever he is, such as Wimbledon, whom you have joined today. A very strong hug and enjoy the moment, champion. This coming in from Rafael Nadal, who's a 22 Grand Slams winner. Djokovic himself is a 23rd Grand Slams winner. Had he won yesterday, he would have won 24 Grand Slams. That's an unachievable task. Many say he's the greatest of all time. And it would have been a record equaling 8th Wimbledon championship and a 5th consecutive Wimbledon championship. That was the task that was set up for Carlos Alcaraz, and I think he came up with the goods. Nick Kyrgios says, haven't watched a whole tennis match in a long time. Thank you, Joker Noel and Carlos Alcaraz, for putting on that incredible performance. And this last reaction coming in from Novak Djokovic himself, which was at his post-match speech, and I was listening to it. He really became teary-eyed right at the start, and what a champion, he started his speech with congratulating Alcaraz. He said, you're a youngster, what you've done, how quickly you've adapted to tennis and grass is quite impeccable to look at, and you are certainly the future. And then he looks up to his boy. He says, nice to see my son still up there smiling. I love you. And then he breaks down, covers his face up, and because it's an emotionally charged situation, he says, thank you for supporting me, son. I'll give you a big hug and we can all love each other. Thank you so much. That's all for now. That's the champion who is congratulating the current champion. What it means for Alcaraz, what does it mean for Spain, Spanish tennis? Certainly good things are in the offing. The next, you know how the baton gets passed from Pele and Maradona to Ronaldo and Messi, and now we're looking for our next future star, even as Kylian Mbappe, Neymar, all these new names are already doing the rounds.
No escape from Alcaraz.
This is again, you know, a passing of the baton after Federer's and Nadal's, and I wouldn't say twilight on Djokovic's career, but it's getting there. That baton has been passed. That's all the time we have for you this time around, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks for joining with us. To all those you know, that are commenting on the YouTube live stream as well, many thanks for joining with us. At 12 p.m. we have that focus on Manipur. At 11 a.m. we'll again bring you what's happening at the opposition meet. In the afternoon, the South Indian. At 7 p.m. today, the biggest debate of the day, To the Real Point, and later on, Under the Global Lens, the top global story. Varghese, many thanks for joining with us. Keep watching Newsline Live.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं.
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में.
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है.
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shade.